All praises unto Yahweh Shem Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honest you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. This is another article I've come across, and I thought it needful to get into this article because of this, particular words that were used in this article. Now we know that this North Korea thing is more a distraction than it is anything plausible leading up onto World War III, because the scripture does talk about it being played out between Iran, Russia, America, namely other nations are going to jump into that. I'm not saying North Korea is not going to jump into there, and I'm not saying it won't be a catalyst, but we know for the most part it's likely to be a distraction. But the statements that they used was of interest because a lot of times we say sanctions, and how sanctions are means of monetary warfare. This article touches on that in some respects, all right? And they're saying invasion war games, but see, ultimately the end goal is Russia. This is all somewhat of a distraction, all right? I don't know the ins and outs of the North Korea thing. I couldn't tell it to you, like I might be able to tell some of the other stuff that's happening out there in the news. But it was interesting what as we gonna read in this article, the rhetoric that is used, and bearing in mind the book of Mark, the 13th chapter, where the scriptures say explicitly that in the latter times you was gonna hear a lot of what they know as rumors of war. So this is an example and a fulfillment of those scriptures, that being the rumors of wars. But we know that ultimately that war is going to be played out between the Russians and the Americans, and the Iranians going to be involved in there. We know Israel's going to be involved in there because the Israelis are nothing but an American military base and military presence that's always out there in the Middle East, and nuclear presence at that. Okay, so it says U.S. to stage massive invasion war games amid Pyongyang penalties. It says with harsh new sanctions placed on Pyongyang, Sarah Sloan, right, of the Answer Coalition, talks about the radio Sputnik loud and clear to discuss the impact of the move, as well as America's upcoming war games simulating an invasion of North Korea. It says the sanctions include mandatory inspection of cargo that is leaving and entering into North Korea by sea and air base, a ban of all sales, all transfers, right, small arms, light weapons, and all right. It says and the expulsion of diplomat, right, from the North who engage in what the resolution describes as illicit activities. All right, so you can see some of this, some of the rhetoric used. I'm gonna read a little bit of this as well, and you can see, man, whether it's predominantly it's out there in the Middle East, but basically this is how the Esau was gonna go out, because this is how the Romans went out. All right, if history, right, has told us anything, is that one of the reasons that Rome fell down is that because it spread its military troops. So you got troops out there along the borders of all of Russia, from all the way from Latvia all the way on down to the Black Sea. All right, and you got it to where, excuse me, my geography is not so accurate, so don't quote me on that, but I believe that that should be correct somewhat. And you got it to where now they're trying to stage they're doing these so-called military games out there with North Korea. It says the resolution. Let me go to this paragraph here. It says this is only a small sampling of the many penalties placed in North Korea by the UN. All right. And it says the sanctions came in response to Pyongyang's test of a nuclear bomb in January. All right, as well as a satellite launch last month, right, which the UN determined as a veiled attempt, all right, to demonstrate North Korea's long-range ballistic missile capabilities. Now, let's say they did develop these missile capabilities and they were successful and so on and so forth. Now, what are you gonna have it to where? What's gonna happen, man? What are they gonna use that for? They're gonna put that in a museum? No, the scriptures say they're gonna have millions of missiles going out there into America, man. So this is just one of those things where the Most High is showing you, look, man, these prophecies are coming to pass, man. All right, you gotta hasten the day. All right, you gotta be patient. Let this thing flow through, man. And surely, like the scripture says, though it tarry, it ain't gonna tarry, man. All right, it says, and while the United Nations insist that the sanctions will be not will have no detrimental impact on the civilian population of DP, RK, colored collateral damage may be inevitable. He says we saw this in Iraq, where the sanctions were imposed by the United States and had a disastrous impact. And what happens when these sanctions get in place? You get these different nations pretty much getting agitated, man. All right, it's like when you put an animal into a corner, it causes that animal to do erratic to perform what's known as erratic behavior, and that's what's gonna happen with these different nations where America's putting all kind of sanctions up against them, man. All right, it says the United Nations, and because the American U.S. runs the United Nations, man. It says the United Nations has had a disastrous impact where the United Nations, right, own agency admitted that this was the case, that there were over 1 million children who died as a direct result of the sanctions. All right, because this man is the harbinger of death, man. All right, he brings forth death. That is his objective. That is his purpose of being on the earth. And when death is no longer required as punishment unto the 12 tribes of Israel and the nations out there and so on and so forth, right, to be destroyed and killed and people to suffer. And once that time is complete, Lord's gonna do away with the wicked. Man. Scripture talks about if the wicked be increased, it is for the sword. All right. It says there are too many they claimed. All right, that they were sanctioning military items. She has. All right. So pretty much, it was some of the rhetoric that they used in there that I wanted to touch on. And it was a statement I wanted to and this is a statement I was talking about, and this actually goes in more in line with the situation that you got out there in Russia, and that goes to prove a point that I've been saying, for a long time, that these sanctions that they put upon these different countries are a form of warfare. And you got it here where it says sanctions are a form of warfare. All right, and then it goes on to say U.S. to stage a massive invasion, right, war games and so on and so forth. So just another article while getting into it, and then I'm gonna say all praises unto Yahweh Shemi Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honest you brothers will be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.